Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 15 of a Disney Life podcast. I am Missy, and I am joined by my co host, Rachel. Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Missy.
It's good to be here with you this morning
Same
for
thing.
a new sort of podcast for us. We're trying something a little different this week. And today's episode will be all about the All Star resorts at Walt Disney World. So we are grouping those three All Star resorts together as one large property for the sake of this podcast. And we will be walking you through those resorts, what they have to offer, and our recommendations at them. So we're happy that you have decided to join us today. If you are familiar with the All Stars and love them and just would like to hear about them, or if you're not that experienced with them and would like to learn something new, then this is the place for you. Also, in today's podcast, we will be doing our top 5 memories of our own personal All Star resort stays because Rachel and I have both stayed at all. I think, Rachel, have you stayed at all three of them?
Yeah, I have stayed at all 3, yes, I
Okay.
have.
I have as well. So we have our top 5 memories for you of our personal experiences at the Disney World All Star Resorts. Tip of the week about All Stars as well. And then we have a listener question concerning rapid refill mugs. So thank you for being with us today. And we hope that you enjoy this special podcast about the Disney All Star Resorts.
So, Missy and I, we are fans of the All Stars resorts. We have stayed at them multiple times throughout the years. They are excellent resorts. Highly recommend them for families if you want to go somewhere and see larger than life statues. It's really a lot of fun for small children, but also if you primarily plan on spending a lot of time in your park in the parks and don't want to spend a lot on a resort room, all Stars is the place for you. So, all 3 resorts, they are going to have a main building area where check-in is located. They also have their quick service location there, as well as a gift shop. You can also find Bell Services at all 3. Bell Services is located outside, just outside of the main building. There is an exterior entrance there to Bell Services. They do not have an interior spot inside where Bell Service is located. So keep that in mind when if you're going to All Stars Resorts that you do have to go outside to find Bell Services. But they do have a spot there where you can go store your luggage, check your luggage for the day. Scooter or stroller rentals will also be dropped off at those locations too. All 3 resorts also have bus only transportation, which I think that's something that's important to note. As Disney's expanding transportation options throughout the resort area, All Stars does only have bus transportation available, but each resort only has one bus stop, which is also significant because several of the moderates, which All Stars are values, let me add that in. Several moderates would have multiple bus stops around the resort area. All Stars, each resort has one bus stop location with stops for each park, and Disney Springs located off of the main building there too. So, Missy, anything that you would add to that information about all 3 of them?
So, backing up just a little bit to clarify, the 3 All Stars that we're talking about, if you're not familiar with Disney's All Star resorts, are Disney's All Star Sports, All Star Music, and All Star Movies resorts. So, these are 3 resorts located right next to each other. In fact, some of them do share some parking lot space. You could easily go through parking lots from one to the other. The way they're situated is sports, you'll arrive at sports first if you're coming in through the main entrance, then you'll come upon music, and then finally movies. And like I said, depending on where you are within each resort, you may actually be closer to the main food area or bus area for one of the other resorts. So that's something just to take a look at once you arrive, get an idea of the lay of the land, and figure out, are you really closest to your own food court, or are you perhaps sharing a parking lot that is going to extend over into one of the other resorts to share as well?
So, I think with
All of
that, let me add, I stay at Music a lot, which if you look at the map, Music is in the middle of the 2. And there are sometimes if you're waiting on a bus, it's been a long day and you don't feel like waiting anymore, and a bus pulls up for movies or sports, hop on it. If you're not too far away from their bus stop, you might as well. So we have done that several times because you really can walk and see the other resorts from certain parts at each
So you
resort.
mean if you're leaving a park at the end of the day and
Yes,
you
if you're
need to
leaving a
get back to your
yeah.
hotel, in that case, then then you'd be able to hop on the bus for one of the sister resorts there
Yeah.
and get back to your resort that way rather than waiting. So that's a good tip,
Yeah.
Rachel. A tip of the week before it's even tip of the week. So all of these resorts are a really, really fun and unique way to be themed, I think. A typical boring resort, you have larger than life icons representing each different aspect of the respective resort. And I think a lot of times people kind of consider these to be great for kids because these larger than life icons that you see are great for photo ops for kids to see, and they're kind of mesmerized by them. But as an adult, I really enjoy them too because it really gets me into the Disney atmosphere. It puts me right into that Disney bubble when you are surrounded by fun everywhere that you look.
Yeah, I agree. Disney is not their resorts are not generic. They're not cookie cutter, even though the rooms are all the same. We're gonna get into the rooms in a little bit, but just having the statues outside of it, you really do. We've talked in other episodes how important it is to be in the Disney bubble and feel like you're in the Disney bubble. And the statues, these icons really do help add to that.
So, like all of the regular Disney resort hotels, and I say regular because I'm excluding Disney Vacation Club because they have some different procedures. But with Disney resort hotels, All Star included, it's a 3 p.m. check in and an 11 a.m. checkout on your morning of departure. So, as Rachel had mentioned, they do have bell services at all three of the All Star resorts. If you arrive before your room is ready, you can certainly take advantage of everything the resort has to offer and park tickets if you have them for that day, and they'll be happy to store your luggage for you. And the same goes for departure day. You are considered a resort guest until midnight, the night of your departure. So, if you'd like to stay and enjoy the resort pool or anything else that the resort has to offer, or visit a park that day, Bell Services will be able to help you out by holding your luggage for you that day. In addition to the basic things, like, of course, there's a swimming pool, right? All of these resorts have pools. We'll go a little more into depth on that. They all have an arcade.
Mhm.
They all have a large food court area, and they have a lot of family activities too that we'll get into a little bit later. I think the main thing that people who are familiar with Disney think of, other than the fun at these resorts, is that these are typically the lowest cost resorts that Disney offers. They are a value level resort, and their pricing is lower unless there's a discount that kind of swaps things around. Say all stars aren't discounted, but one of the moderates or one of the other values may be. And of course, like there may be a day of the year that the pricing comes out to be less elsewhere. But typically,
Typically, yes, yes.
looking at their rack rate pricing, the all-star resorts are the least expensive option. So there's a huge
Mhm.
draw right there, especially if you're somebody who isn't as concerned with all of the excess resort amenities that you may have at the deluxe level resorts. The all-star resorts really offer everything you need from a hotel on your vacation. There's comfortable bedding, you have a good I don't know really know how to describe the bathroom. It's not a great bathroom. It's a
It's a
bathroom. You'll have a
bathroom.
bathroom,
It is a bathroom, and you get ready in it, and you don't have the curtain divider anymore, so it's a
right?
bathroom.
That's right. There is a nice door there now. So let's talk a little bit about the rooms now. So your typical room at one of the all-star resorts. Back in the day when they were newer, they had two double beds. It seems over time Americans have swayed away from the double beds. You really don't find, unless you're in a larger city with hotels that really can't be reconfigured because you're super limited with space. Like I know a lot of times in New York City, when I look for a room, you'll find double beds there. But I think almost all main hotel chains are switching over to queen beds when possible
Mhm.
rather than the two double beds, just for a little bit more comfort there with sleeping. So Disney did a huge refurbishment a few years back and they restyled the inside of all of their value level resort rooms. So now in those rooms, you'll find a regular queen bed and then a convertible Murphy queen bed. And I love this setup for several reasons. First of all, it gives you a lot of extra space during the day because when
Mhm.
that second Murphy bed is folded up, it's a decent sized dining table for four. And these rooms do sleep four guests plus a child under age 3 in a packing lay crib. if you have 5 in your party and one's under 3, then you can all fit into the one room. I really enjoy the layout of the rooms now because you have that extra space there during the day when the bed is up and it's a table. You also have a beverage nook, maybe a coffee nook. It's a stand that it's a few shelves and some drawers,
Mhm.
and in the bottom is your little mini refrigerator slash beverage cooler. I know there's often debate about which hotels have which, and I've had both, so it's hard to say exactly what you'll have. But something to keep your drinks cooler will be in the bottom of that area, and then you'll have a little coffee maker there on a stand, and of course. There's a large TV for anybody who wants to tune into our favorite blue screen channel that
Yeah.
tells you all of the times for
With
all of the
soothing
goings on.
Disney
It's a part.
music.
That's right. You just listen to that music on repeat. Sometimes I turn that on at home. I'll find it on YouTube and just
Yeah.
listen to the blue screen. And as Rachel mentioned, the curtain for the bathroom area is now gone, and they did put in sliding doors when they did that big refurbishment. So it's nice to have a pretty solid sliding door that you can move across the bathroom area. The bathroom areas will have a sink in one space and then an actual closing door that goes into where the toilet and
Mhm.
shower tub combo is. There's also an iron in there and an ironing board if you need that. There's a hair dryer. Now, of course, this is a value resort on vacation. You're not going to have the best hair dryer experience of your life in there by
Or
any means.
towels. You're not gonna have the
The
best towels
towels are
either. Deluxe
smaller.
get the nicer ones. These are
And that
pretty
is one
thin.
when people ask me what the difference between the deluxe and value resorts are, I tell them everything is different. The higher level you go, from toilet paper and towels and everything in between, because it really is true. There's better toilet paper at the deluxe resorts.
Yes.
We pack our own toilet paper anyway. That may be
That's so
silly, but we're
funny.
particular about the brand that we use. And no matter what resort we're staying at, if we're there several days, we do take our preferred toilet paper with us. But the towels, I think they've improved really over the years. I could remember them years ago being so small, and I've personally only gotten larger since then. And they don't seem, I mean, I would think they'd be a hand towel on me at this point.
Well,
If
they've yes, they were significantly smaller, and I'll also say too, I know that there's a lot of complaints about Disney switching from the mini toiletries that you would find in your room.
Uh huh.
However, if you were staying in All-Stars Resort, this was a huge upgrade when they included them in the shower because at the value resorts, it was like a shampoo and conditioner combo. They wouldn't sparse it out, but if you stayed at the deluxe resort, you get like shampoo and conditioner. And so now it's shampoo, conditioner, and body wash that are located in your shower. They are refilled by housekeeping. You cannot take them with you any longer, but it's actually an upgrade if you are staying at a value resort from what they had previously.
And it is worth noting these are the bath products formerly known as H2O and now just known as what are they, Sea Life and Salt or something.
Yeah,
I don't even
they
I don't know what we're
smelled the
pretending they
same,
are right
smelled
now,
the
but
same, I'll tell you
they
that.
smell the same. They take you right back as soon as you start using them. It's that same smell, and I love them.
But I
Things were
do
rough there
think yeah, I think the
when we thought
bathrooms,
we were losing them. It was bad.
they added some nice storage to the bathroom area. There's kind of a little closet type area where you can hang some clothes up, but they did add I think they improved the bathroom significantly there. It's not a gigantic space, but I like the large door as opposed to, last time that I was at Beach Club, the sink area was open out to the rest of the room. So getting ready in the morning if you're trying to let people sleep in, it's kind of a pain. So I think they made a major improvement to the bathroom area there.
I agree. It's also worth noting out in the bedroom area that the regular queen bed is a raised bed and it is plenty high to put a standard suitcase under there. And when
Yes.
I say standard suitcase, I mean my suitcase that will be 50.0 pounds every time I travel because it is large and I fill it up. So I'm not talking, you could squeeze your carry on under there. You
Yeah,
can absolutely put a large suitcase under there. I'm sure some of you have even larger luggage than me, so maybe some doesn't fit, but regular luggage will fit underneath there very easily. And I would say you could store 3 to 4 with the size of the bed under there, right? So, I mean,
yeah,
that helps a lot as far as stashing stuff away to create some extra space in the room as well. It's
absolutely.
worth mentioning that there are connecting rooms available. So if you're traveling with another party, you'll be able to establish linking them in Disney's system with a travel with number so that they can assign you as close together as possible. We've had great luck with that over the years. I don't think there's ever been a time that we wanted a connecting room at one of the all-star resorts and didn't get one. So that's definitely something you can do. Or if you're traveling with more kids than can fit in the room and you and your spouse or partner would like extra space and you determine you'd rather pay for two rooms, they could be linked together as well. So you can have that connecting door there and give yourself a little more space.
Yeah, I do like that. I'm also gonna mention as well too, because we get connecting rooms quite a bit with, my parents that will travel with us and everything, so it's
Mhm.
nice to have extra set of hands. But if you are staying in the resort, the Murphy bed is actually quite comfortable. I've slept on the Murphy bed plenty of times. There's a nightlight you can turn on and everything inside of the Murphy bed, but the reason why I have slept on the Murphy bed a lot is because if you request bed rails from mousekeeping, they will not go on the Murphy bed. You have to put them you have to put them on the raised queen bed. So, that is a little tip and suggestion for you. So, if you get the rails that the resort can provide, if they have availability, the rail has to fit up under the mattress in because of the way that the Murphy bed mattress sits down into the bed frame, you cannot do that on that bed. So, you would have to put the children in the raised queen bed and the adults sleep in the Murphy bed. So, I am well aware that the Murphy bed is comfortable to sleep in.
That is your spot, huh? That's good
Yes.
to know. I wasn't aware of that. So, speaking of navigating around the resorts with little ones or anybody who may need an elevator for any reason, these buildings are typically laid out in a way that the staircases for the buildings are, if we'll call them inside or outside, because they're kind of enclosed, but they're enclosed by some of those giant, larger than life icons representing
Mhm.
each different courtyard of the each specific resort. So there are stairs at the end of each long hallway, but there are elevators as well that are centrally located in each building. So this is really just luck of the draw where your room happens to be located. You may get really lucky and be towards the end of the hall near stairs. And if you don't mind stairs, then that's great. But if you're looking for that elevator for any reason or at the end of the night just because you're tired, you're going to have to go all the way to the center of the building and then take the elevator upstairs if you're not on that ground floor. And I believe, are these all three-story buildings, Rachel? As far as I could remember, I think
I'm trying
for the
to think.
most part,
I can't think of
maybe
any that are.
4. It may depend on the specific building in which resort, but there are multiple levels. I think there's at
Yes.
least 3 in most areas. So that's not something I had looked into when I was refreshing my memory on these resorts
I
before
didn't look into it
talking
either.
about it today. But
Yeah.
knowing where the elevators do exist. I've talked to people
Mhm.
before who didn't realize they were there because you had to go to the center. A lot of the buildings are kind of like a T shaped. So when I say by the center, it would be at the top middle of that T, basically, is what I'm talking about. So at the end of each long section of the T, you would have the stairs, but then all the way in the center where the lines meet up, that's where the elevator would be located.
Yes, and it is significant to note because not every building at every Disney resort has an elevator, so these do. But yeah, if you're depending on what end you're staying on of a building, you may not walk to the center of the actual building that you're staying in, so it's easy to miss those too.
Those center areas are also usually where they have the vending machines. Ice machines will be located there also. So if you're looking for those things closer to your room than the main room, that's where you'll find that, or than the main lobby building. I mean,
Mhm.
that's where you'll find that is near wherever the elevator bank is. In addition to those regular rooms that we described, Disney also has a special family suite option at just one of the All Star resorts, and that is All Star Music. So if you have one of the family suites at All Star Music, you will have a separate bedroom that closes off and has its own bathroom. And then you'll have a living room area that has that same type of convertible table bed that we talked about in the regular rooms. And then, in addition, a couch that folds out into a bed. So those are
Those are
able to
Murphy
sleep.
aren't those Murphy beds now? The couch ones? I believe they're Murphy beds
I
too,
think they are,
so
yes. Yep, they're
yeah.
the same type,
Yep.
very similar to what you'd see over at Art of Animation, but the layout is a little bit different. And I honestly don't know which one I like better. We just stayed at one of the family suites at Art of Animation this summer, and we stayed at one of the music ones about a year and a half ago at Christmas time in 2023. And I like them both. I really like that there was a larger, it felt larger to me, kitchen area in the All Star Music Suite.
Mhm.
It was an actual legit refrigerator,
Yes.
not full size, but I would call it like apartment size
Yeah,
refrigerator.
yeah.
that could hold a lot of things. So if you were bringing snacks back or keeping
Mhm.
things or wanting to use the microwave to do some meals, that would be an option there. And then there's a second bathroom there also off of that entry living room area. So
Mhm.
we honestly put the beds out the very first day for the kids and then they stayed out because it was the type of trip that we were just in the parks. When we do Christmas at Disney, we just usually the weather is amazing that time of year. So we're not really needing as many breaks as we would in the summertime. And there's just so much to see and extra Christmas snacks to be in. We don't spend a lot of time in the rooms. So I'm struggling to remember. I think you're correct that it was the fold down Murphy bed,
Mhm.
the couch one, and the
Yeah.
table one is what they have in those
Yeah.
family suites now at All Star Music.
Yes, it used to be a pull-out sofa, but they underwent a major rehaul of those suites too,
Right.
when they changed everything over. So now it is a table bed, and then you have a sofa, kind of like what you see what's happening at a lot of the,
In
DVC
the villas.
resorts. Yeah, in the villas that they're going to this model where you have a couch, but you just pull down the bed from it. So, I actually prefer the suites at All Star Music to Art of
Okay.
Animation. I think the 2 Murphy beds is one factor, but the kitchen is another factor because, like Missy said, they're kind of like the apartment style, or if you were lived in a dorm, like your friend that has the really fancy refrigerator, that's what they were like. But they have a freezer, a small freezer on top, which I think is huge because the beverage coolers do not have any sort of freezer type device on top. And so these are actual refrigerators that you can put things in. The beverage coolers, you can't leave yogurt in a beverage cooler for 2 or 3 days. It's just going to go
Right.
bad pretty quickly. But this one, these are actual refrigerators. So I think that kind of seals the deal. And the kitchen area is kind of, it's not closed off, but it's kind of like in its own little nook as opposed to Art of Animation. It's really part of the room itself.
There
So
were a
I
lot of
do,
shelves in there too. We stuck some
yeah.
other things. It ended up kind of being like our souvenir stash was like going up and as we get things to kind of keep things cleaned up and out of the
Yeah.
way. We're people who I've taught my kids since they were little. We get there, you're going to move in and get settled so you know where things are. That way
Mhm.
we're not wasting time every day digging through suitcases and trying to figure out where things are. We like to travel very organized. So as we would
Yeah.
get souvenirs, they'd get lined up on one shelf. I could remember lining up cookies from the cookie stroll at Epcot at Christmas time on the shelves. And they were our breakfast for the next morning,
Mhm.
so that worked out really well. But I think those rooms are great. Let's go through a breakdown of each resort individually. If you're looking for something in particular or have a particular character you're looking to stay near, this part of the podcast may help you out. So we'll handle All Star Sports first. All Star Sports was the first of the All Star resorts to open, which means it was the first ever value resort for Disney, the OG value. It opened back in 1994. I believe it opened kind of staggered, all of the sections, like every month or two, they'd have a new section open. That was before I was traveling to Disney World. So I don't really remember that happening. I was in maybe middle school at the time.
Yeah. I was 8.
Open.
I couldn't tell you what they did either.
Okay. So, but it seems to me like they were kind of in a rush to get things pushed out because they didn't have the resort fully complete yet when they started staggering that opening there. But by the end of the summer in 1994, the full resort was opened. So the All Star Resort, so All Star Sports, has 10 total buildings with 5 different courtyard sections. They are Touchdown, which is the football section, Center Court, which is the tennis area, Surfs Up, which is where you'd find surfing and the lifeguard stand. It's like a swimming themed area. Hoops Hall will be basketball, and then the Home Run Hotel area is baseball. So each of these sections have a lot of fun things, especially so if you've got kids that are sports fans in any way or leaning towards any one of those sporting activities, this is an incredible place to stay
Mhm.
because they will just be completely submerged into that for the length of your stay. Keep in mind that the inside of all of these rooms is the same traditional Disney theming with the decor. So, this theming that we're talking about right now is only for the exterior areas of the hotel. So, if you're out there saying, well, I want a value hotel, but I don't want a room filled with footballs, well, you're not going to have a room filled with footballs. If you're in the football section, the decorations are all in the outside areas in the outdoor courtyards of the hotel. The insides are pretty standard, very simple. They're not as gaudy as they were years
Right.
ago.
Oh, yes. bedspreads, but they are sport related, sport themed, and when you pull down the Murphy bed, there's a mural back there on the wall that's sport related with some characters. I think Huey, Dewey, and Louie are primarily in the
I believe that.
decorations
Yep.
in the room,
Yes, I
but
believe that's right. Yep.
yeah, so it's they're nods to sports, but it doesn't look like a locker room threw up all over your
Right.
room.
Right, you're not like in a five-year-old boy's bedroom at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, so just to give you an idea, because I do know plenty of adults who go there as adults with no kids, so we don't
Mhm.
mean to make this sound like it's a childish themed type place. So the pools, they have 2 pools at All Star Sports. One is Surfboard Bay, and the other is the Grand Slam pool. You could probably guess by the names which areas they're in. The Surfboard Bay is right in the surfs up section, and then the Grand Slam pool, which I think is also the one that has the Goofy statue that sprays water.
Mhm.
That one is in the baseball section of All Star Sports Resort. So that's a lot of fun. To give you an idea of the size of these things, there are shark fins on the outsides of the buildings in the surf up section. Those things are 38 feet high. So when we're saying like larger than life icons, that's the size we're talking about. The megaphones in the hoop section are 45 feet tall. There are whistles out there that are 60 feet. So these are just a couple of statistics I had pulled off online looking at this. I did not go out there with the tape measure to measure them myself. So please don't hold me to exact dimensions, but we're talking about giant things. So you look
Mhm.
tiny. They're towering over you when you're standing there because they're not just tall, they're wide also. One silly statistic I found in the home run section, there are big Coke cans that are made to look like 12-ounce Coke cans, but they're giant. And the internet says it would take 20 million 12-ounce cans of Coke to fill one of these big Coke containers that's out there.
Wow,
So
that's
it's pretty,
insane.
pretty big.
Yes. A lot of math I don't wanna figure out.
So I think it's also interesting to me, how your opinions and desires change over the years. Sports is never really a section or a hotel I really thought I would want to stay in. I'm not very sporty myself. I have, when my kids were little, I had 2 little princesses, so sports really wasn't our top goal. But I stayed there without my daughters last year for a business trip, and I was there just one night. And I was in the tennis section, and now both of my girls play tennis. And I was there saying, I can't believe I've never had them here. This is so much fun. We could get so many fun photos of them with, the giant tubes of golf balls or
Yeah.
out on this massive court area that looks like a tennis court. It just was it looked like a lot of fun. So I do have that on my radar for a future stay with the kids. Like I said, I've stayed there myself, but not with them. All Star Sports was actually the last resort to check off of my list. I had a goal of staying at all of the Disney Resort hotels, which I
Oh,
have
wow.
since done.
Okay.
It took me a really long time because I have my favorites that I went back to over and over
Mhm.
and over again. So I do admit I have only stayed at All Star Sports one night, but I absolutely loved it. And I would love to go back and stay there again. I thought it was a great resort.
So we used to stay at sports more often. It is not my favorite of the All Stars resorts. We'll get to that, but I do like the tennis section, and I like it because it is kind of on the outskirts of the resort itself, and it's quieter out there. Find sports to be the noisier of the 3 resorts, and maybe it's just
Okay.
because it encourages play, especially the football section where you have basically a big football field out in the middle of it. Kids are constantly running out there, playing games. Kids will bring their footballs, and the last time I stayed in the football section, there were people playing outside in that area until 11 p.m. one night. And it was not quiet, and I noticed the next night that had changed. I think Disney sent some cast members out there to kinda disperse the
Calm
crowd.
it down a bit.
It was a bit loud, it was a bit much that late. I don't mind obviously, it's this place is built for families to go and have fun. Don't mind that at all, but 11 o'clock is a little bit late for me when I'm
They
theme
didn't play
parking
very
it.
hard in the parks that day if they still
Yes,
had the
yeah, I
energy to
don't know what
play their
that's
time.
like. I'm ready to go to bed when I get back to the resort.
But it's definitely worth noting that, I mean, it really is a family-friendly, play-friendly resort.
Yes.
All of these resorts are. There is a lot of space to run and to play, and these giant icons just make it even more fun of a space. So I do remember there is a playground there. I remember seeing that walking between my tennis building and the main building. Um,
It is near
and
the
I think,
touchdown section, yeah, correct.
okay. All right. That's right. Very good.
And they do have campfire activities on, Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 6:30 to 7:30. They also show
All right.
movies near the pool on, those same days from 6:30 to 7:30, even though that's not a full length of movie. They probably start about 6:30 though, but you'll see, cast members set out. They'll have these in giant inflatable movie screens, and, so those are fun too if you decide to have a resort day or get back early, that there's something to do there.
So each of the All Star resorts has a food court area. The food court area, what is it called, Rachel? I'm not finding in
The
my notes. And it
end zone food courts,
end zone.
you can imagine, is sports themed in its naming. So the food court outside of the end zone food court is the grandstand spirits pool bar too. That is exterior from that. Although I do believe some of them maybe have an interior bar entrance.
So I know All
Mm.
Star Music definitely does. That may be a refurbishment that they've all done in recent years also, because I definitely remember being at the All Star Music one. There may be something in my top 5 concerning that.
Okay.
So hang
Okay.
around to the end of the episode. Yeah, so it's located inside facing where the registers are for the checkout, if you're
Mhm.
not mobile ordering at the food court, but if you're checking out near where the beverage station is. But then it
Okay.
also extends outside
Yeah.
as a regular bar with stools and counter seating also. So I believe that's the setup at all of them at this point. I think they kind of redid that when they went resort by
Mhm.
resort with the refurbishments a few years back. So I think that covers everything with sports. And now on to music, which actually is my favorite of the three.
Mine too.
No way. I had a feeling you were going to say that. That's funny because I do think they're all fantastic. Movies, we'll get to movies for a few reasons. I think that may be the absolute ideal hotel for hardcore Disney adults and
Mhm.
for families with young kids. So we can get to that. But first, music. So music has their main building, which they call Melody Hall, and it's pretty much the same layout. It has, oh, we didn't mention the store in sports. They all have a store, of course,
They do,
because
yes,
why
and they have a
why would
decent
they not
size.
have a store? They have to
They
have a
have a
store. And they have in their stores, look, in case you can't see it. I know you can't see it if you're just listening, but I am wearing an All Star Resort sweatshirt today. So maybe we'll get a photo of that on our socials there so everybody can see. But I love that they have resort specific merchandise there for some
Mhm.
special things at the All Stars. And their stores also have, your basic needs, things you may have forgotten at home, and all the classic Disney merch, sweatshirts, hats,
Yes.
t shirts, all of the things that we love, they have at the stores as well.
And the, store at music is called Maestro Mickey's, and let's see, the store at sports is Goofy's Gifts and Sundries. So,
Okay.
not really a sports theme on that one, but Maestro Mickey's is cute.
Yeah, but Maestro Mickey's is cute. They have the Intermission Food Court, appropriately named their Intermission Food Court at All Star Music. And their sections for their different courtyard themes are Calypso, Jazz Inn, Rock Inn, Country Fair, and Broadway Hotel. So each of those areas brings a lot of fun things to them. You could tell by their names what they represent.
Yeah.
The Calypso area, I think, is the most vibrant area. I remember
Mhm.
taking a lot of photos with the kids by the very bright, different colored, I think it was like a giant xylophone or piano. I think
Yeah,
it was a xylophone.
yeah.
Uh, and I remember a drum set, a giant drum set in the jazz section.
Mhm.
The jazz section is where all of those family suites are. And you know what? We didn't mention earlier either when we talked about the rooms is the preferred room section. So at the All Star resorts, they have standard rooms and they have preferred rooms. And when you hear preferred at Disney, it doesn't mean the room itself is different. It means the room location is preferred. So these are the rooms that are going to be the closest to the main building
Yes.
and the bus transportation. So the preferred room. So if you're looking at booking something and you're wondering what the difference is between standard and preferred, it's the location of the actual rooms. So I think Calypso rooms are the very first ones. So I think would they be the preferred ones there? I know Jazz Inn
Yeah,
used to be
jazz
preferred, but now
yeah,
they're
jazz has preferred rooms as well, but Calypso does too. So this is something important to remember. If you book All Star Music and you're traveling with a large group, let's say you have a family my size. We're a family of 5, and we want a family suite, but we may be traveling with my parents who don't want to get a family suite, maybe just want to get the standard type room. I would suggest that they book the preferred location so we have more of a likelihood to be in the same building together, because where the family suites are, there will also have standard resort rooms in that, just in the preferred location too.
Hey, I didn't realize that. I thought that the whole building was family suites.
As far as I know, and please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I believe
Someone will
Calypso.
correct us.
Yes,
One of
I
us
believe
is wrong
Calypso
and
does have the
somebody will
standard
correct us.
rooms. I believe that the standard rooms are located in there too, so we made to look that up and clarify
Okay.
that, but
It may just be like separate buildings too, also, because
yeah,
I mean,
and it
there's more
could
than one building and
yeah,
one
or
wing for each.
sections within that building as well.
And on the opposite of that, if you're looking to be further out and you want more quiet, if you don't want to be near something like the football play, like Rachel mentioned at sports, the country fair area is what's furthest out at All Star Music. So if you're looking for a quieter area, you might want to ask for a room out that way. Of course, you can make requests and you won't be guaranteed. If it's a standard room location, you could be pretty much anywhere at the resort. But if you would like something further out, go ahead and take a look at some of the maps online or see if Disney has any recommendations for you or your travel
Mhm.
professional has any recommendations for you about where exactly you should request your room be located. The walls in these rooms are not very thick. So
No,
you do often
no.
hear flushing of the toilet, and that's the kindest way to explain that of what you hear from one room to another because they are very close
Yes,
and
you can
the
tell
walls
when
are
your room
thin.
neighbor is getting up and getting ready for the morning, you sure
Uh-huh.
can. I will also say, so Broadway would be my favorite section there. I think one of my favorite things about music is the way that it is laid out, the resort itself. You have the main building and then everything is kind of a straight shot out from there. Once
Mhm.
you get to the end sections, there is kind of like a circular pathway you
It
can go.
turns, right? Yeah.
It does, but the other sections like sports, you've got your preferred sections, but then baseball's over here, but the other sections are over there. So I do like you just kind of go in one direction at music as opposed to movies and sports. You can go multiple directions for there.
Right, it's very easy to get around, I think because it's a straight shot like that, it makes it
Yeah.
pretty easy. So, the pools at All Star Music are a guitar-shaped pool and a piano-shaped pool. So, those are a lot of fun for music lovers, and, there is, of course, an arcade there in the main building. We do have a playground there, and, we already mentioned Maestro Mickey's the store. So, anything else to add before we move on to the next one, Rachel?
Well, I'm trying to think on this one. So again, this is, we always said this is our favorite one. One of the reasons for me is this resort seems to be a little bit quieter, I think.
Okay.
I don't know, but maybe that's just my own view on that. But I will mention this with the family suite. So we've mentioned discounts. If the All Stars resorts are available, it's a pretty good chance that you can find a discount there. Different room types are more likely than others, but the suites at music, it's kind of rare to find a discount for the suites at music. But one thing to keep in mind if you're trying to decide between the art of animation suites and the music suites, art of animation suites do discount frequently. However, the starting price, they're usually $150 to $200 more than the music suites are at a base price. So that's something to keep in mind too with
So,
those.
and I would definitely compare the cost of 2 rooms to the cost of
Mhm.
the family suites because many times getting 2 regular rooms will cost you less than the family suite. So, it
Yes.
depends on if any of the options are discounted and exactly what your family's needs are. So, if it would be great to have extra bed space and more bathrooms, you'll get more beds getting 2 connecting rooms than you would 1 family suite also. So,
Yes.
you have options, lots of options.
You do have a lot of options.
Moving on to All Star Movies, our third and final All Star resort. Again, they have different
Mhm.
sections. They are 101 Dalmatians, Toy Story, Fantasia, The Mighty Ducks, and Herbie the Love Bug. So
Which
these
is
are not,
interesting.
it is quite a mix.
The classic.
I think it probably goes without saying, I would be willing to bet my house that the most commonly requested area there is Toy Story. The others are definitely classics, but I feel like maybe some younger kiddos these days may not be familiar with Herbie the Love Bug, the Mighty Ducks, or
Yes.
Fantasia
Yes.
as much as they are with Toy Story and even 101 Dalmatians. Now, again, these classic movies, if your kids haven't seen them, maybe plan a movie night coming up here soon. I'm guessing they're on Disney Plus or somewhere out there for you to be able to stream. But the Toy Story area, I think, is incredibly done. And
Mhm.
I would stay there. If I had little ones that were Toy Story fans, I would stay there just for that. Even if you're not in that section, of course, you're welcome to visit and spend time in any one of these sections and go there for photos. It's not
Yeah,
like you have to be staying in
they
that
don't check
section
your
to see
room
them.
key. Sorry, you are in the
Yeah.
Herbie section. You have to stay there in the love bug section.
And it may be pretty non-traditional, but this is even something if I know somebody who has little kids who loves Toy Story and they have an off day that they just want to kind of explore around. We talk a lot on this podcast about visiting deluxe resorts and dining at deluxe resorts. You can do the same thing with the value resorts. You can take a bus from any one of the parks and get yourself over to All Star Movies, which would not cost you anything, and let your kids go have fun in that Toy Story area and take photos with the giant Buzz and giant Woody and all of the fun things that they have decorating that area. Get yourself a snack or a quick service meal at their food court. And, you can't swim in the pool. Pool hopping is not allowed, but you can enjoy other activities around there. One thing I remember them doing at music was a mosaic music note or something like that. I think
Oh,
each
that's
of
fun.
them, and I've seen that. I remember it was the same trip, and I did split stay, and I was at All Star Sports first, and then the Contemporary. And I was kind of looking to see what type of things they may have for guests to do, in addition to the tie dye T-shirt that we've seen
Mhm.
many years. And they all of the resorts seem to have a fun little mosaic option that they'll give you your piece of whatever the material is. I don't know if it's like a clay or like I don't know,
Yeah.
like a block of concrete. I don't know what
I don't
it
know.
is.
I
But
haven't done it, so I don't know.
but it was shaped as a music note at All Star Music. No, maybe I'm confusing myself now because I was thinking it was sports, then contemporary, but it must have been music because it was a music note. And then I saw a monorail is at the Contemporary. You can decorate
Yes.
like a mosaic monorail. So they do have activities at the value resorts out usually near the pool area, but there are things going on every day that you can do usually for just a small additional cost too. And those type of things, you don't have to be a guest at those resorts to pay and participate in those. So it's something to keep in mind also.
Yeah, and I do wanna confirm that, the preferred rooms in the suites are in the same building, so,
Okay.
yeah, so they
All
are
hail
in
to
the same
Rachel. She was
building.
correct. So very
I Googled
good.
to
Very
make
good. Well,
sure I
well, let me
second guessed
Google lies
myself.
sometimes. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I looked at legitimate websites, so
This
anyway.
may be something that we need to personally investigate to get to the bottom
Yeah,
of.
I agree, I do
We'll
agree.
backtrack to that at some point.
One thing we did not mention that all 3 resorts have, because I know this is extremely important to both of us, but you can find a 1-mile jogging trail around each of the resorts.
Thank God. Because there is no fitness center. So the value resorts
Yeah,
do not have fitness centers, but the value resorts, all the all stars and also Pop and Art of Animation do have jogging trails, walking trails that are nice and clean and, you know, like concrete
absolutely.
trails to use. So that's good to know. Thank you. So they have Cinema Hall is what they call their main building area at
Mhm.
All Star Movies. The World Premiere Food Court. That's what it's called. World
Yes,
Premiere Food Court. I needed to look at my notes for that. Their names are clever, but it's
and
hard to keep track
Donald's
what's where. Yes.
yeah, Donald's Double Feature Shop, so again, a play on film there with the double feature if you're going to the movies,
Hmm.
and they
And
too
then they
have
have, I'm sorry, I was going to mention the pools. I know
yeah,
one is a Mighty Ducks pool.
yeah.
So that's an exciting thing. What's the second one? Do you remember what the second one is?
Isn't it
Anyone know?
Fantasia?
Yes,
Is it
absolutely.
the
It is the
Fantasia theme
Fantasia
pool?
pool.
Because I remember
Yes.
there's a Sorcerer Mickey out there, right, with the
Yes.
fountain. Yes, yeah.
And
So
that's
I
actually a photo that they've used on a lot of, why can't I think of the word right now? Like,
promotions for sure.
yes, there's my word. A lot of promotions out there, a lot of advertising. You'll see that Sorcerer Mickey out there, the
Yeah,
Fantasia Mickey
yeah,
in a pool. So if you're wondering where that is, it's at All Star Movies
yes.
Resort.
Which is wonderful and, it's cute and everything, but I just have to say, there's just something about the 3 caballeros. at All Star Music, seeing them out in the middle of the pool, it's just I don't know. It's and I'm a bigger fan of Mickey than I am of the 3 Cavalieros, but I do think it's just I think it adds to it so much
I think
seeing them
you're
out there.
we see Mickey more often than we do
Yeah.
Donald and any of his buddies, so buddies other than Mickey, so it's fun
Yeah.
to see Donald have his moment to shine there
Yes.
at All-Star Music. So, I mean, overall, I think that we've covered pretty much everything there is to know about these resorts. They are good for guests of all ages to stay at. I think they are great for little kids, and I think they are great for adults or families traveling on a budget. That's what they're there for. I love that Disney gives us the option of different levels of hotels to stay at. The
Mhm.
one thing that I have always experienced at any of my value resort stays is a clean room. And
Yeah.
that's what I tell people when they ask me about the difference for Disney resorts. I say value resort rooms are going to be smaller than deluxe rooms. And you're going to have smaller towels and your toilet paper won't be as soft, but it will be clean. The rooms will
Yeah.
be clean. They do a great job there at cleaning the rooms. I believe housekeeping is only every other day at the value still at this point.
I think so too at this point. It's kinda you might see hit or miss information on that too, but from my experience, it has still been every other day for values.
But keep in mind that regardless of what Disney hotel you're staying at, if you need additional towels, you can just call down using the phone in your
Mhm.
room and they will bring you extra towels.
Yeah.
Just because you don't have your room serviced every single day doesn't mean that you can't get extra things as you need them. They're happy to
Yeah.
bring them
Yeah,
up to your room
absolutely.
for you. And I always offer them a few dollars to thank the cast member who brings them to my door for me.
Mhm.
That's a huge help. So I like to offer a little bit of a tip there whenever possible to people who go out of their way to help us out and make it a nicer stay. But overall, I think that the All-Star resorts are a fantastic option and I encourage you to stay there. I know I definitely will plan on doing that again too.
I completely agree. Yeah, they are a wonderful option. And whether the suites or the standard room on there, I'll also make note too. One thing we didn't really talk about is that at ESPN Wide World of Sports, there are oftentimes cheerleading and dance competitions that will be held. When that happens, these resorts are typically contracted out for the participants of that. So if you are ever looking and you see, I can't find any All Stars availability whatsoever, check the ESPN Wide World of Sports schedule because there could be a competition going on and you might want to stay elsewhere anyways.
There may be groups there. And there's pros and cons. If
Yeah.
you're staying there when there's a big group event happening and there's groups who have space reserved, it could be loud at times, or they could be gone all day to their competitions and you could have a pool to yourself. Like it could
Yes,
go either way there. So,
it could.
certainly
Yeah.
not saying to avoid them if you hear there's a group there, but just be aware of the differences that could be happening if there is a group that is staying at the resort. Okay, rolling right into our top five today. And this is a different top five. We normally are naming things around Disney property or our favorite food or favorite drink or something like that. But today we're going back to some of our own personal memories, our top five memories of staying at All Star Resorts with our family or friends. So, Rachel, do you want to go ahead and give us your number five?
Yeah, my number 5 is when I was able to check all 3 off of my list. I've only stayed at movies once, and that was in, the Mighty Duck section, but I stayed there with Katie, who we've had on the show before, but we were
Hmm.
all traveling together. You were at a different resort, but we wanted a quick night. We needed someplace to stay pre-cruise, so we stayed there at All-Star Movies, and that got all 3 off my list. What about you?
Excellent. So mine is a very general thing, but I will elaborate. My list simply says breakfast, but
There you go.
elaborating on that a little bit, I love just the experience of being able to be in their food court type situation where you are immersed in all of the Disney decor all around you. You can get your Mickey waffles, which is basically my go to breakfast every day at Disney. I'll get the kids' Mickey waffle meal with bacon, and that is the perfect amount for me to get my day started up. Often on Disney trips, I want to be a little more leisurely, but on the trips when it's going to be get up and go and get to the park and be at the park all day, which I think are ideal situations for these value resorts, I just love starting the day with having breakfast before you get to the park. So you're not wasting your time there. And I have a lot of memories with my family, especially looking back to a trip I'll probably reference a couple times during this top five memories, but it was a Christmas trip that we took back in 2023 as a family. And we had some of my cousins along, and it was a lot of fun for us to all just start each of our days gathering there in the food court for breakfast with our Mickey waffles.
So we did not, I know we're in our top 5 right now. We didn't mention much of the food courts, but they do have a very large selection for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at all 3 food courts. They have a lot of the same things. You can get a whole pizza there for lunch or dinner, but they do have some differences in their menus as well. But I agree. I'm not a huge breakfast eater, but I like that I can go and grab a glazed donut each morning at one of the All Stars resorts. Because you can't find some of the deluxe resorts, as nice of amenities as they have, they can have pretty limited menus or things that you can find there at the food courts that you will be with plenty. You could eat a different meal every single day if you're having a week-long stay at one of the All-Stars resorts and you wanted to eat dinner there every single night. You could have a different meal every day of your trip.
It is such a huge strength of the value level resorts, the size of the food courts they have. And it
Mhm.
seems like the higher level, more expensive Disney hotel you have, the more table service dining options you have, but the more the quick service suffers.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm looking at you, Boardwalk and Yacht and Beach Club. Come on. Like, really.
completely. I
They have,
completely agree.
there have been great improvements over the year. We've added on food in the marketplaces over there at Yacht and Beach, but my word, we avoided those often when the kids were little because we knew we didn't back then. Now, like I said, it has improved. There is much room for improvement still, but it
Yes.
has improved in the last 10, 12 years since my kids were real little, and we'd be looking for places, where you can get the chicken tenders and
Mhm.
burgers on an easy basis and not have to stand outside at a giant pool area in the sun at Hurricane Hannah's to try to get a burger or chicken
Right.
tendies.
'Cause it seemed like it was like, if you wanted a turkey sandwich, go stay at Yacht Club. That's what they had.
Yeah, really. Perfect place for a grab and go meal at only
Yeah,
$800 a night. Meal not included. But anyway, the food courts at the All Star
yeah,
resorts are, I think they're great.
I do
They
too.
pump that food out fast, but they're actually making a lot of it to order. You don't have a problem at all if you need to customize something. These are not burgers that are sitting there already made on some buffet type situation for you. They're putting them together for you,
Mhm.
and they seem to have a lot of different pastas options. I think they have a lot of, each of them will have a pasta station to kind of make your own. You choose your sauce and your proteins
Yeah.
and things to go along with it. I think there's a stir fry maybe at each and a
Yeah, a
grill
lot
at
of them
each.
have a stir fry. Yeah, some of them you can find fish and chips or nachos.
Mhm.
There's, a beef stir fry, chicken stir fry. They have a lot of those too. You'll find salads, burgers, sandwiches, chicken sandwiches, plenty of
Pizza, and
desserts
they do
too.
pizza
Yeah,
delivery
pizza.
also. If you want it brought to your room, that's one thing that's available till pretty late at night. So, and they have mobile order, which makes it easy
Mhm.
too. We would
Yeah,
mobile order from our room and then say, "I'm here," as we were walking down, so that when we walked in, it was ready for us to grab, could have a seat, and they're large, very large space for seating. Also,
yeah,
we were there at Christmas time. It was busy. We never had a problem finding a table, and there were 8 of us. So
yeah. And they have a
that's
lot
helpful.
multiple their drink stations are all centralized, but, we're talking about the deluxe resorts at Yacht Club. This just is vivid in my mind. There's one drink station. It's like the Coke Freestyle machines.
Mhm,
At the All-Stars, there's like 4 or 5 drink stations. There's a
mhm.
lot. So you're not waiting in line there either. So it's very, very good to eat, have things to eat there.
Okay, so
All right.
as you see, breakfast amounted to a lot. Did you even do a number 4, or were you still talking about my number 5?
I haven't done number 4 yet, but I was thinking
Okay,
that
alright.
is something to note. That is a plus that the values have for sure. So my number 4, staying at the family suites back when they had the early entry at Hollywood Studios, it was like 6 a.m. or something like that. Do you remember that? And, if you're staying on resort, you got in so much earlier. Galaxy's Edge had opened not long ago, and, you had that and the Toy Story Land. So getting up super early from the family suites and being able to go to Hollywood Studios. I know that's more for Hollywood Studios than necessarily All Stars, but it's just something that is still vivid for me, something I wish they'd bring back at times too.
Well, if you could see my list here, you would see my number 4 says, "Our stay in the family suite." So, but it was different because you and I are from separate families, and these were separate
Yes,
stays.
yes.
For me, it was the ease of the room and having the extra space. So my daughters are teenagers now, and I love that we were able to get a more affordable option than a suite or a villa with separate sleeping space for my
Mhm.
husband and I. So I think that's a great option. It also was great because it gives them a little bit more space to for sleeping also, so they don't have to share a bed. So
Yeah.
again, this was a situation like we talked about earlier that there was a discount and it made more sense than some other options. We are always very, very budget minded with our trips. We wouldn't be able to travel nearly as often as we did if we were not very, very wise
Mhm.
about every aspect of our trip and how the money's spent. So those family feats really worked out to be a great option for us.
I completely agree, absolutely. So my number 3 would be that my very first day at music was just a quick getaway for 2 nights before boarding my very first Disney Cruise Line cruise.
That's
So
a way to start the magic a little early. I
uh,
love
so
that. I
a
love
a
that.
new resort, and we just so happened it was the same weekend that Maelstrom closed, and so
Oh,
they
oh. I
they
feel like I should be
announced.
somber now.
Yeah, well, we got it. We were able to go on the very last day that it was open. So we decided, it was my mom and I. We took a little girls' cruise, just the two of us, and so this was several years ago, this before I had children. And so we knew, okay, well, we need to adjust our trip so we can get on Maelstrom one last time. And so just but being out there, it was October, the weather was beautiful, and we had a great time, just the two of us exploring the resort, going to Epcot to sadly ride Maelstrom one more time. And but it sticks out in my mind being there at music for the first time.
So that's now the second in your top 5 out of 3 things that is not a directly resort related, but I think
It's
what
very
it
true.
relays I hope what our listeners are getting from this is that even if the value resorts are on the same pricing as larger off-property options, and you're
Mhm.
thinking, "Well, it's not that important to stay on property because I could rent this house and it's not a whole lot more. I can stay at this hotel chain and get free breakfast, so why stay at Disney?" What Rachel's really saying with her top 5 here without saying it is that it's being part of that Disney bubble and being on property and the benefits that come along with being a Disney resort guest that really
Yeah.
can make a huge difference in your trip here because that's where her memories are.
Yeah, well, and we took Disney Cruise Line transportation, getting up and out early that morning. There's just a feel that the resorts have in the morning as you're walking out. People are excited to get to the parks to start their day out. And so just, scent, sound, memories, things like that of just remembering so much about those days that you're right, aren't necessarily just resort specific, but the resort plays part of it too.
Okay. And that was your number 3, right?
That was my number 3. So what's yours?
My number 3 is taking photos in the various courtyards with my kids. Specifically, again, back in this December 2023 trip when we were at All Star Music, because my kids are both music lovers. Our whole family loves music. And they love theater as well, musical theater. And having the Broadway section there made it a lot more fun. They've been to actual Broadway in New York many times, several
Yeah.
times, but it was just fun to see the Broadway section. It was a little sad to see the Frozen on Broadway area there because we love Frozen and, wish we could go see Frozen on Broadway. But I had mentioned during the main part of the podcast about how there was the big drum set in the jazz section and the colorful xylophone in the calypso area that just really
Mhm.
made for a lot of fun photo opportunities. I have trained my kids since they were really young. I take photos. I am no photographer by any means, but I love to document our memories with photos. I start almost
Yeah.
every day looking back at memories, either my Facebook memories or Time Hop or whatever social media platform you're looking at. I'd love to look back and see memories from those days. And sometimes it gives me a tear, but more often, uh, it just reminds me of how fortunate I have been, and I'm just always been a photo taker. So my kids have been trained since they were very young. Stand and smile, stand and smile. This is one of those places where even as teenagers, they were saying, "Get my picture here, get my picture in
Yeah,
front of that."
yeah.
That made it a fun memory for me.
So my number 2, I've mentioned this in the podcast before. One of the first 2 episodes, I believe, was, when I struck up a conversation with the manager at All Star Music Resort while we were waiting in line to check in, and I had on a Horizons t-shirt, and then, the
Mhm.
very next morning, a pin showed up in my room with a note, handwritten from the manager, wishing us a wonderful stay, and it had a Horizons pin inside of it. So I just that is something that will always stick in my mind, the Disney difference. You hear about the Disney difference often, and, it was purely coincidental that we were there for that and at the same time and that he came up and talked to me, but it really made me feel special just to have that and that he remembered that because I'm sure as a manager of one of those resorts, your day is busy and
Very busy,
stressful.
yes.
Yeah, but just the fact that he remembered it meant a lot to me.
And that's the thing when you're staying at a Disney resort, you don't have to be staying at a deluxe resort to be able to be experiencing great things for the cast members because they
Yes.
have outstanding cast members on every level of resort.
Yes.
So, and that just goes to show the extra mile that they'll go to. We had a similar, not as magical as that, but a somewhat similar experience when we were recently at where were we? Pop Century. So another value,
Mhm.
but not one of these, and my daughter was wearing a particular brand of athletic wear that had a Disney theme, and the cast member noticed it. And these types of things are not inexpensive. It's a well-known brand that she's paying way more than I think she should for a simple athletic shirt and tank top, but it was something she really wanted that she had asked for a gift and she received it. And she was so excited that the cast member recognized this. And when we were in line waiting for something at guest services, the cast member had seen her and wrote on the celebration pin the name of the type of athletic apparel that she was wearing, that she was celebrating it that day,
Oh,
and
that's
she
so
gave it
funny.
to her, and just that she was recognized for, like, wearing what she was wearing, and the cast member was saying, like, "I love their stuff too," you know?
Yeah.
It's just it's great when you get that little recognition like that from other Disney fans, being cast members or not cast members, because,
Yeah.
when we're not at Disney, we're all looking for that Disney fix at home. Like, that's the
Yes.
whole point of this podcast. I guess that's the point of the athletic apparel. You can wear it at home and have that touch of Disney with you. I don't know. I don't quite get that, but the kids do. So that's
Yeah.
great. So my number two, it's my turn, right? Number two,
Yes,
my
it is
number
your
two.
turn. You're number 2.
So my number two has to do with something we touched base a little bit on earlier in today's episode, the little bar lounge area at All Star Music. So they did refurbish that area to give you an actual like seating lounge area just to the side of the food court between where you check out and where the beverage station and seating area is. And my husband and I just took a few minutes at the end of one of our busy days on that trip. The kids went back to the room to shower and we said, let's just sit here and have a drink, because just since it's a value resort and it doesn't have a place like Geyser Point at Wilderness Lodge,
Mhm.
or I could list like a ton of deluxe resort lounges because we
Trader
spent a
Sam.
lot of time there. But yeah, just because it doesn't have that doesn't mean that the two of us couldn't take a couple minutes to sit and unwind and talk about our day and talk about the things we needed to do the following week for the Christmas holiday and all that type of thing. So we sat there and ordered our drinks, and we chose to sit inside just because the seating looked a little more comfortable. But it was just nice to have that time with him and to be able to just sit there and relax at the end of the day. So I do appreciate that, even though it's often kind of looked at as just a pool bar, it really is more than just a pool bar.
Mhm.
All right, we're down to your number one, Rachel. And I
So this
I
one
know what this is going to be. I know it.
so
Let us hear it, Rachel. Let us hear it.
this one is a very unique experience that, I don't know that many of you would ever, ever, ever want to have, but it by
I
all
tried to
means
save her from this. I tried to save her from
my
this
number one
experience.
memory. I spent 2 days at All Star Music when Hurricane Ian hit. 2 days at 7 months pregnant with 2 children, ages 6 and 3, when Hurricane Ian hit.
And these were days that, like, it was a you can't leave the hotel room
Yes,
kinda day.
we could not
This girl
yeah,
was
yeah.
stuck.
We were curfewed basically, but this goes back to we did have 2 connecting rooms. My mom was traveling with us, and so we were able to get a connecting room to her, so, we were confined. We knew we were actually kind of having a resort day. My husband flew in just because of his work schedule the day before everything shut down, so he got there that afternoon, and we decided we need to rearrange our park days. We were actually hanging out at the pool, and we rushed over to Hollywood Studios, did what we needed to do there because we were stuck for 2 days. So, I will give major props to the cast members. They were fantastic. They do have a system in place where cast members will stay at the resorts to make sure everything is up and going. We saw housekeeping around. They came around to us actually a couple of times and said, "Hey, do you need anything?" They obviously didn't take the time during those 2 days. Everything was closed to clean the rooms, but they would come around, make sure we had enough towels, toiletries, anything that we needed. We were getting notifications through the app about when things would be open, things like that. They did actually open up the arcade for free on one of our
Well,
days. So the hurricane hit at night, and so everything was closed the day leading up into that night.
and when she says everything was closed, she means the parks were closed.
Yes.
This wasn't just a rainy day that we could say, just put on your poncho and
Yeah.
go. This was a legit weather emergency. There was
Mhm.
potential for danger out there for guests and for cast members.
Yes.
So things were actually shut down and she had no
Yeah.
choice but to stay there. However, I did
Yeah.
beg her to go to a friend's local house. I was like, "Are you sure?" I was texting our friend saying, "Tell her she
Yes.
needs to go to your
And,
house,"
the
because
friend
she
said I
wasn't
was
in
more than
town at the
welcome
time.
to, but I needed 2 car seats, and I just said, "I can't. I don't wanna risk that. I know that I'm safe here," and we were very safe, even with an exterior door entrance and everything, but, yeah, the park was completely closed, even though nothing hit until that night. They even said, "You need to be put 5 PM. Nobody's coming through the gates of these resorts." They stopped everything, but Disney fed us. We were smart and strategic with trying to make sure that we could get everything by a certain time point, so we didn't need to go back out. We actually got an entire pizza that day, and it was so windy as my husband and I were walking back with it. It almost blew out of our hands, and it wasn't
And didn't
even,
they have more grab and go options? I think I remember you saying something about they had more food prepared so everybody could stock it up in their rooms in
yeah.
preparation for
Yes.
the next day.
They had a lot of baggies, like, we got some chicken salad sandwiches, some Uncrustables for the kids. They had baggies that were kinda grab and go, and I think we paid, like, $8. I mean, we still had to pay for the food, but it was, like, $8 for an entire bag of like, a sack lunch of food with water, but then they
Sounds so
kept getting.
magical.
But again, they were fantastic. They were just trying to get people there, and it was what was chaos is that we weren't really given a time frame. It was just kind of like food is opening at this point, so everybody thought, "Well, I've gotta get food at that point." But they were open pretty late. We got the pizza probably around 7 or 8, and then they asked that everybody stay in their room around 9 PM that night. So we did, and then the next day, things were opening back up as far as the food court was operating as normal, which was nice. We just couldn't go anywhere. So we actually, because staying in music, we were split between the other resorts. We went over to movies and walked around and took pictures at all the icons. We went over to sports and walked around and took pictures. So we made the best of it. But yeah, 7 months pregnant with 2 small children confined to a room at All Stars for 2 days was a lot. I'll never forget that experience. I always wanted to have a hurricane experience at Walt Disney World, and they really do only close
Well,
down the
you got
park.
it, honey.
I
You
got it. Oh, I got a big one. I got a big one. If you've looked lately, since then I know they've closed down their parks for at least 1 day since then, and maybe like a half day as well, like
Mhm.
1.5 days. They'll close it down. But this was 2 full days. But the cast members were fantastic. People, we were just kind of, it was a camaraderie among everyone there. So it was an experience, and they made it as pleasant of an experience as possible.
Well, that is quite a memory. I have never
Yes.
experienced I've never experienced a hurricane shutdown there, but we were there in early August of 2024, when there were just some bands from a hurricane going by, and it was just a Cat 1 at that point. So the parks were still open, and we were staying actually club level at the Grand Floridian for this trip, and we had let the kids go off to the parks on their own. Now, remember, my kids are older teenagers. One's in college at this point. Like they're basically grown-ups, okay? So, don't shame me for sending the kids to the parks, but this is the first time I ever
During
said,
a hurricane.
I am the worst mother. So I said, "I'm not gonna keep you." We had just very few days there. I think we only had 2 park days that trip, and this was one of them, and there was no time to
Mhm.
extend at this point, or money. So, because like
Yeah.
I said, we're Grand Floridian Club level, so this was it. And I said to them, "Go ahead. If you guys want to go, the weather doesn't look too bad. The park's open. Disney knows best. They've got meteorologists, I'm sure, on staff knowing more than I do about the weather, so go ahead and go." And that's when we started getting the buzzing on our phone and telling us, alert, storm's coming. And suddenly they're at Hollywood Studios and now it's hurricane winds. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Everybody's frantic around the club lounge. And we, go to the cast members for instruction. And the response was, Well, we'll be bringing out the mimosa cart. Which kind of mimosa do you want? And I said,
We
okay,
did
well, I
not
guess
have that.
if Disney thinks they could solve this problem with mimosas, I'm not going to argue with them. So I guess
Yeah,
it's not that big of a
absolutely.
deal.
Yeah.
And it just
We
ended
did
up,
not have that.
it was just a little bit of rain. The biggest problem that day was, lo and behold, the Magic Band charging privileges stopped working, because doesn't
Oh,
that just happen on every trip? I don't even know how to solve that, because we try to repair
yeah.
it every trip when we check in. But so they did have some limited funds, and my daughter chose to buy a rain jacket with it because her poncho just kept blowing up in the air. The other two kids just decided to be soaked for the day, and they were fine and they had a great time. Again, that was not a real shutdown, a legit hurricane like you do
Yeah.
experience. All right. Well, my number one is a little bit more on the magical side. It's a little bit sappy, but I think my favorite all star memory again was all star music. And this was back on my very first trip back in 2001. I was 21 years old and I was traveling with some family members and my brand new fiance. It was our first trip together. So we had some connecting rooms to be able to accommodate him as well and have our families all together. Uh, and to me, it was just so magical because as a 21-year-old who had always just wanted to get to Disney based on what I was seeing on TV, the sitcoms, all the ABC shows. Everybody
Mhm.
was going to Disney World, Full
Yeah.
House and Family Matters and, Boy Meets World. Everybody was going to Disney World and I wanted to get there too. So to me, arriving at a resort like All Star Music and being submerged in all of the Disney things all the time in that type of a bold way was truly magical to me.
Mhm.
It certainly didn't mean it's my most favorite resort of all, but it does have
Right.
some really special memories. I could remember sitting there. It was a July and early August trip. It was very hot. And I could remember taking an afternoon break and being back at the hotel and sitting in the food court. And Boy Meets World was on the big TV in the corner that they had at the time. It was like, man, life is good. I'm here with my chicken strips and my fries and my Coke. And how could life get any better?
Living the life.
I was living the life. And if you would take me to do that today, I would be right there immediately because
Absolutely.
I had
Completely.
a fantastic time on that first trip and it set the tone for everything else. Obviously, it was a magical time because I have not stopped returning since. So we can move right into our listener question for the day, which is, are rapid refill mugs worth it? So if you're not familiar with what a rapid refill mug is, they are the refillable mugs that you can get at any Disney World Resort hotel. You pay a one-time fee for your trip, and it's good for the length of your trip. And it's actually up to 14 days, I believe. So technically, if you buy it in the first part of your trip, you can continue to use it through the rest of your stay at another hotel. It's not specific to just your own resort hotel. I think there was a time when it was, but it no longer is that way. I've actually had trips scheduled back to back before for various reasons and brought the cup home and then went back down and the cup still worked for the first couple days of the second trip because they were
Nice.
within 2 weeks of each other's.
Yeah.
When I was down, one was with family and one was with the group. So it was two different reasons and those cups work. So what's your answer for that, Rachel? Do you recommend a rapid refill cup?
I'm kind of torn on this. Obviously, if you have a dining plan, every person in your party gets one, but I tend to drink, I guess, more soda in the park than I do at the resort. So I can go without it for sure. I do recommend if you don't have the dining plan, I wouldn't recommend buying one for everybody in your party. If we don't have the dining plan, I don't get one for my children. They're perfectly happy with just water. So for me, that's a
Hmm.
waste of money for them. And they don't like the taste of carbonated beverages. So it's water or lemonade. And so for me, it's kind of like, well, let's just choose the water route on that. So I don't recommend if you don't need it for everybody in your party, getting it for everybody in your party. It's easy to wash out the mugs and reuse them, everything like that. So you can technically share among your party. If you don't plan on spending a lot of time at your resort, if you don't want to carry it around with you during the day, because for instance, at the All Stars, it's easy to run by there on your way to the park. That's what I typically do to fill up my water, but I don't want to carry my mug into the park. So keep that in mind too. That if you don't go back to the room, you're gonna have to carry it with you. So I really just think it depends on your kind of your touring style. If you're gonna spend a lot of time at resort, yeah, I would get it. If not, I might look into other options there too. So what about you, Missy?
So I think it's important to know that if you do have the Disney dining plan as part of your package, you do get the refill cup for free. So that's a no-brainer. Absolutely get your
Yeah.
rapid refill cup
Yeah.
because you paid for it as part of your dining plan. However, I would say it not only depends on how often you think you'll be at your resort, but it depends on the type of trip you plan on having if you're spending time at other resorts. So if you're someone who's taking an afternoon break and you're going to visit another resort hotel other than yours that's near the park you're at and then return to the park, you could use that refill mug at another resort hotel's quick service if you choose to. But it's really hard to get the value out of it for a full family. So I would say more likely you can maybe for a family of 4 or 5 get 2 or 3 mugs and make out just fine depending on their soda consumption. We don't drink a ton of soda at home. It's kind of something that's more of a treat for us on vacation.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll give in and say, okay, everybody can get one. But more often than not, we just don't need them. We carry our refillable water bottles with us to the parks anyway. So if we happen to be stopping at a resort, we don't need to spend another $4 for a drink if we're just getting water at that resort anyway. Again, it depends on your family and your exact situation. But unless you drink a lot of soda, which some people do, it may
Hmm.
not be worth it to get one for everybody in
Yeah.
your party. And for this week's tip of the week, I am going to go back to our conversation on the All Star Resorts and just encourage you take the time to get to know what your resort offers for you as extra activities. I always recommend taking an off day during your trip. Unless you're an experienced Disney traveler and you know exactly what you want to do every day, it can be overwhelming to do sun up to sundown, park, 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 park every day. I recommend taking a break in the middle of your trip and having a resort day and finding out what activities, like we discussed in this podcast, there are different crafts, like arts and crafts things to do with tie dye t shirts and the mosaics and different things, different organized games. I think every resort on property has a 2 o'clock pool party pretty much every day of the year, weather permitting. So there's plenty to do other than being in the parks every single day. So I encourage you to check into your resort, find out what the offerings are, and take advantage of that because part of being at a Disney resort hotel includes all of the amenities that go along with it. It's not just how close are you and how do you get to the parks and what's my room like. It also includes all of that extra fun that goes along with it. So that's my tip of the week. Take some time to enjoy your resort. And that'll do it for this episode number 15 of a Disney Life podcast. Thank you so much for being here today with us as we explored the Disney All Star Resort hotels. We love that you listen, and we would love it if you would continue listening to us and also take a look at our socials to see if there's anything that interests you there. We are on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, a Disney Life Pod. You can follow us there and interact with us in our Facebook group, uh, Disney Life Podcast. If you have any listener questions for us, you could also email them to us. That seems to be a common option. You can email a Disney Life at storybookdestinations.com or podcast at storybookdestinations.com with any of your listener questions or comments, or I mean, correct us on things that we said wrong. That's okay, because this is a learning experience for all of us. And really, it's just a way for us to talk Disney when we're not at Disney and bring a little bit of that to your day too. So I hope today's episode has put a smile on your face, maybe made you consider staying at an all star resort for an upcoming trip. And if you do, we'd love to hear about it. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Thanks.